ENAUTO Section 8 Summary Challenge, Building Cisco DNA Center Automation with Python. What is one feature of DNA Center SDK? And DNA Center SDK is, of course, a Python package, which can be used to make native Python native calls to DNA Center API. So it reads your Cisco DNA Center credentials securely from environment variables. Yes, that's what it does. You can specify your credentials explicitly when you create the DNA Center connection object. But if you don't do that, it will also try to read a couple specific variables from the environment. And there are even two ways to set this in the environment, at least. One way is to use one variable which has both username and password encoded in base 64 as just one string. And another one is to use two separate variables for username and password. Other options here are it does not represent all return JSON as Python objects. This is not correct. It actually does that. It returns the data type, which is called myDict, and this myDict is both. It can be interpreted and operated with both as a Python native dictionary as well as an object, right? So I actually kind of tried both ways in the lab, and both work quite okay. Yeah, so you can use the key names as strings in quotes and in brackets, but also you can just put a dot after an object and then specify just one thing, right? Just the name of the attribute. All right, it does not process rate limiting requests. It does it. It automates the data center switches. No, it can. You can write probably some scripts to automate. Oh no, it's data center, right? DNA center is not about data centers. It's about enterprise networks. So this is not correct. All right. With which package manager is DNA Center SDK installed? Like any Python package, you would use pip to install a Python package. Which option is a Python library in the standard library that can be used to build your own framework for accessing the intent API? So it is not requests, because requests is not a standard Python library. I believe the standard one is your lib. I have no experience building anything with your lib, just using it occasionally. Yeah, but your lib should be the correct answer. What is one benefit of building your own framework to access the intent API? Okay, that's interesting. Reinforcing basic Python skills. Well, maybe, but it's not really that basic, I would say. It requires a little bit more advanced Python skills. Maintaining your library. It is not really a benefit, right? Because it's rather a burden. Changing your library as Cisco DNA Center evolves, and this is the same as the previous option, it's maintaining your library. As your environment gets more complex, your framework gets more complex. Kind of the same as either two, the previous two options. So is it a reinforcing basic Python skills? That's probably it, right? I mean, it's hardly a benefit, and there are other ways to do that. Yeah, but just if you want to play around, you can definitely do something with Eurolib or maybe requests or some other, maybe HTTP client libraries, and play around with the intent API REST interface directly. That's probably one benefit. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. What is the name of the Python class that is needed with DNA Center SDK to create a session for all API calls? It's called DNA Center API. just the name of the class. What is one benefit of using DNA Center SDK to access the Intent API? Ready to use custom built library for Intent API. Kind of yes, I'm not sure about custom built. You cannot really custom build it. Someone built it, right? And it's kind of universal. This option looks good, but the others are DNA Center SDK can also manage Cisco ACI. This is not correct. This is actually the option for data centers, application-centric infrastructure. Need to maintain DNA Center SDK. You do not need to maintain it. It's an open source project, and there are people who maintain it and make sure it's up to date. Dependency on the PyPI library. It's not dependent on PyPI library, and yeah, and that's it, right? So the first one is correct. And finally, which option is the best way to consume the Intent API for a script? Consume Intent API for a script. Okay, Python libraries probably is the best. Curl can be used actually, kind of as well. Imagine you're writing a script and you want to consume the Intent API calls, but your script is not Python. So, for example, it could be a shell script, and then curl as a program can be used to fetch this data. It's maybe not as easy and straightforward as just writing a Python script. I would, of course, just write a script in Python. But it's doable, right? And Postman, I mean, kind of, you can also write some scripts in Postman and automate things even there, but it's definitely not the best. And Web GUI Developer Toolkit is basically the documentation for the API, which is accessible through the Web GUI. That should be it.